1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the tag team of Andrew Fish Fain, Joe DeFalco, and your host, Mark Hoke.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho.
Heidi, 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 hi.
Heidi, 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 ho.
There we go. Mark Hoke Show, everybody. We're doing a bonus hour just for you. You know why?
Because we love you?
Because we're awesome.
Oh, good Lord.
Andrew Fish Fain sitting across from me.
Just don't give me a skull-crushing finale in the studio.
He's wishing he wasn't, but that's okay. Of course, co-host on Monday nights of SportsX Radio with Bernard Chips Barnes.
NBA playoff preview edition tomorrow night.
Woohoo! Did you guys know, by the way, they turned me into malt vinegar when I produced their show?
We tried tartar sauce, but malt vinegar worked better.
Not good. And, of course, Joe DeFalco from Future Stars of Wrestling. He is the Lord, the King, the Overmaster.
The man that legitimizes us both.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Now, again, you see it on Facebook, so you never know if it's real. And I'm assuming it isn't, but I wanted to get clarification. They showed something, and it was talking about Cody Rhodes versus The Miz on Raw. I'm assuming that's a joke, right?
No, that is not a joke.
Seriously?
Red alert.
That is the match scheduled for tomorrow night.
Okay. I was wondering because, they got to recreate the MJF Chris Jericho promo thing. So, what better way?
That is truly an American nightmare. Nobody?
No.
I can't wait for the mixed tag, Brandy and Cody against The Miz and Maurice. That's what I'm really looking
Lord.
forward to.
That's
It's going to be a slow build that we'll see it at next WrestleMania.
Oh, God, I just threw up in my mouth. Not good.
No.
And Maurice is going to pin Cody Rhodes, just like when Undertaker's wife pinned DDP to put him over.
I don't know. If I was Cody Rhodes, I'd be down with that finish. That's just me. Anyway, best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. Oh, my God. Could you imagine if we did 3?
What have we devolved into?
Oh. We're sports entertainment, brother. That's what we are. We're sports entertainers.
But yes, Cody Rhodes versus The Miz is scheduled for tomorrow night.
Yeah. By the way,
wow.
Our buddy Chris Wynn, and for those who don't know who Chris is, Chris kind of does radio all over the valley.
He's a jack of all trades.
He is not, Ken Thompson from SportsX Radio calls me the Jose Akendo of KDON because I do the politics. Sometimes I'll fill in the politics.
I thought it was because you were short and Hispanic.
Show. I'm going to ignore you. Whatever. Chris is kind of the same way, except the problem for Chris is he's always wrong whenever he says stuff on the air. And once again, I'm going to prove Chris wrong because he said he texted us during the show and was saying
that you were smart. So you're correct. He is wrong.
Okay. No, I wasn't referring to that.
Oh,
but he was saying that I'm the joking around about being the #1 Mark Hoke in America. Google me right now. I Googled myself on the break.
Go on to Google. I thought Google me was a new vernacular term.
I Googled myself on the break. Yeah.
You get arrested for doing that in like 36 states.
Yeah, I'd probably get fired if they saw me doing it too. But anyway, yeah. But just because I'm fascinated to make sure my search engine and everything is going okay. And yes, you put in Mark Hoke, and I'm the #1 that comes up on the planet. The planet, by the way. But I did see a new one surface. There's some dude in Idaho, some basketball player. Should we look at him real quick? Sportsreference.com.
Yeah, that was a basketball player. Nobody would confuse that with you.
And how does this guy get in here? Because he hasn't played since '86.
Well, you are closer to a basketball than a basketball player.
I'll totally agree with that, but I'd never seen this guy pop up before. So I don't know if people are digging this dude up or they're looking for me and finding some dude from Idaho, but whatever, all good.
Yeah, my searches have been about the USFL and seeing if Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker are playing for the Generals. So.
That'd be fun. How would that be a throwback?
What is it? I think it kicks off next weekend.
That's what I saw.
I think so.
New Jersey Generals.
Yeah, and the Birmingham Stallions.
And they're all playing in Birmingham, right? All the games are in Birmingham?
There's only one home stadium.
Yeah, Birmingham.
Yeah, that's going to be something. Well,
yeah, and there's 3 games, so it's well worth the $5 ticket to go see 3 games.
That'll work. That'll work. Hopefully the beers aren't 25. So let's get into a little bit, a couple news stories that popped up this week before we dive into the TV shows. The first one, boy, is this a messed up story. Of course, MSK won the NXT Tag Team titles on WrestleMania weekend.
Not for very long.
And guess what? Nash Carter, one of the 2 members of MSK, has been released by WWE.
They decided to vacate the belts.
Is that what they did?
They haven't. Have they made an announcement on that yet? Because I haven't heard anything.
No, I saw it the other day, and it was a weird way that they, made it. They were going to decide on Tuesday what was going to happen, but it was like they vacated the belt, and it was like, well, it was a little more than just vacating the belts.
Yeah.
The terminology seemed kind of weird, like. I don't know. And
I was going to ask, did they give any reasoning for behind the vacating of the belts? I mean, they have to, because they can't just say we're vacating the belts. Don't they have to mention it without mentioning it? Don't they have to mention it?
I guess again, it's Facebook, it's Twitter. You see all this stuff. I know Zachary Wentz. We actually were together in China when that OWE we were involved with was wrestling shows out there, and I've hung out with them a few times when they wrestled here, and from what I hear, that situation is far more convoluted than we know, and the story is a lot bigger, I guess you could say. There's a lot of questions when it goes there. So again, it's kind of like that situation to where, like Enzo, where after the fact, Enzo was basically cleared of all charges, but they still released him beforehand.
Yeah, this. So just to go over what has happened, his wife, who's also a wrestler, Kimberly, put a couple pictures up on social media on Monday, on Twitter, with the tweet saying, "Hey WWE NXT, this is my face after your tag champ Nash Carter WWE got wasted and hit me so hard he split my lip open. He told me I'm a wrestler, so I'm always marked up. I hid this for a year and even forgave him, but I can't hide it anymore." Then another one got put up with him having a Hitler mustache and doing a Nazi salute, and she ripped him again. And apparently WWE fired him over the Hitler photo. So being stupid and, decide to make yourself look like Hitler and goofing around, because just didn't fly. But the domestic violence allegations, boy, I'll tell you, there have been a lot of people that have been coming out and defending him about this and saying, as even, you said, Joe, there's a lot of people saying that this is, that are saying that you haven't seen the text, you don't know what's going on, but WWE released him.
But if it's
apparently over the Hitler photo.
But if it's based on the Hitler photo, there is no context in which that's okay.
Oh, it's stupid.
Maybe he was doing a Halloween costume. I remember JBL in Germany was doing the goose step and everything else, and you're going to fire everybody for everything. Yeesh.
Yeah,
unfortunately, in this culture nowadays, yes.
Because I think everybody at some point has probably done something stupid like that, but don't take a photo. Don't put it on social media. If you're goofing around,
that's the thing. There's a lot of idiots in this world, and it's like, but man, they're going after stuff. Look at Brian Kendrick. It was something he said 9 years ago. Miraculously, how coincidental, he just gets released from WWE, signs with AEW, and the day before his debut, some statements that he made when he was a 21-year-old kid comes out, and now they can't use him.
Yeah, and we remember Rich Swann, who had allegations against him as well that proved to be unfounded.
Those were like kidnapping allegations, weren't they?
It was kidnapping and I believe domestic violence and all that stuff, and he ends up going to Impact and doing great. But So this will be a very interesting story to follow. And, of course, we just had the situation with Jeff Hardy, where he wouldn't take the drug test after he walked out during that.
But see, that I think was
match.
more of a plan by Jeff Hardy to get himself released.
It might have been, but the point I'm trying to make on that is that WWE sometimes jumps the gun on these releases a little bit.
Yes and no, because again, even if it's a Halloween costume, there is no context in which doing a Hitler mustache and Nazi salute is okay.
Well, and I don't even know if it was a Halloween costume. He was goofing around.
Right, I'm saying, but
yeah, I agree. That would be
the only even semi-acceptable portion of it is if it was a Halloween costume, and even that's not acceptable.
If he's
it's kind of the saying, we'd rather get rid of you a year earlier than a year
too
later.
late. Absolutely.
Right. So,
Because, and he's right, because then again, people are, if he is kept on and then it turns out to be all the allegations are correct, then people are blasting WWE. How could you keep him on? How could you keep, when these allegations are hanging over his head? WWE at that point are in a no-win situation, because if their allegations are proven correct, then he had no reason to be kept on. And if they're wrong, then they had no reason to let him go.
I almost wonder if they should have just suspended him first.
Well, I just saw, of all people, Velveteen Dream.
Oh, there's
came out recently before this, so it wasn't like it was because of that. But supposedly he's been cleared, according to him. I haven't followed the case, so he's looking to get back into the wrestling because he is clear of it. And we had an issue with somebody that had some issues. And his was different than the cancel culture thing. It was, him and his ex-girlfriend, and, things went awry, and, he checked himself into rehab and tried to better himself. And the allegations came out publicly like a year and a half after he'd already finished rehab. And, again, it was a one-on-one situation, and, we thought he paid the price, and he was looking to better himself. And the minute we tried to put him back on a show, all hell broke loose, and we had to, not do it just because it was like, when does somebody get a second chance? When does somebody said, hey, you know what, here's some penance for what I've done. I'm trying to better myself. I had a problem. I fixed the problem. But, Mike Tyson is beloved again.
Yeah, I would say it happens in our world depending on your talent level. The WWE gave Velveteen Dream, they did give him a second chance because he did come back originally after it. And part of it's because they saw him to be the superstar that they don't see Carter Nash being.
Right.
Or Sammy Guevara, with what he said. I didn't take offense to it. He was just being an idiot. There was better ways to use what he'd like to do to one of the WWE divas. And he, without a doubt, picked the wrong word, but obviously they liked him so much they suspended him for 30 days and made him the TNT champion.
Yeah, and one interesting part about the story, too, is these allegations had actually started to surface before they put the belts on MSK. So they took the chance and put the belts on him, and apparently they thought that at least the allegations of abuse had no weight, so they didn't worry about it. But now,
well, speaking of tag teams, the tag team champion now had serious allegations. Matt Riddle.
That's true.
I don't know. I didn't know about Riddle.
Yeah. Riddle had some stuff thrown in too.
Riddle was with somebody other than his wife, and at times she claims it was consensual, but at other times she claimed it wasn't, and that became a big deal. And I guess they investigated it. And they were okay with Riddle's story, I guess. So, but they didn't say, you know what, this has come out. You admitted to doing what you did. Now we're going to fire you. It's going to be like, no, we're going to do an internal investigation and see what we come up with. And, it's a shame if I guess Nash Carter's his name now, is innocent. He's kind of going to be blackballed for a while.
But it's happening throughout all of the sport. It's not just obviously wrestling, because if you look at the Trevor Bauer situation, the same thing. He's been proven completely innocent from what he said and what the woman said, but he's still on administrative leave, and who knows if he's ever going to pitch again. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, no doubt. It's everything. Yeah, and I get it. It's a touchy situation, but it was like usually, if it was today, Ben Roethlisberger would never have been a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh, you are absolutely correct, because the allegations are, in Georgia that happened. No, I guess timing really is everything, and it's ridiculous to say, but it's so true, because that's the difference between where we live now and where we lived just 10 years ago.
Yeah. So to wrap that up, there will apparently be new NXT Tag Team Champions, and with Imperium being split up, I'm imagining the Creed brothers are
first in line.
Probably going to be the ones that everybody thought they were going to get the belts anyway, and they're going to have them soon enough.
Well, maybe they'll have the Usos win those belts, too.
There you go. And another expedition of gold. That'll be fun. But another bad story, and I'll tell you what, this woman, I don't know how she hasn't gotten help, how she has managed to keep going, but of course, Tammy Sitch, of course, known as Sunny, WWE Hall of Famer, and was in a car accident on March 25th, where a 75-year-old man was killed in the crash. Apparently, Sunny was intoxicated in a couple different ways, and
apparently, I didn't think they knew if she was in. At least it hasn't come out yet. Whether they thought she's intoxicated, they don't know yet.
So
no sunny days ahead.
Would be her if she's nailed for DWI.
It's like her fifth strike. Seventh.
Also arrested on weapons charges and terroristic threat charges just this year. On top of everything else, she has been in trouble constantly. I mean,
that's a sad story. Really.
It is a really sad story, and she was
the. I mean, they call her the original diva, and although I think Miss Elizabeth was more of an original diva than she was. I mean, I
what
guess
about Missy Hyatt?
I was about to say you can go back
How
to
about
Missy
Precious.
Hyatt. Yeah, I know. I gotcha.
Baby doll.
All right, easy there, Tiger.
Sapphire.
Now you went forward, and that's just ridiculous, John. but yeah. So I'm not inside enough to know if people have tried to help her out and she's refused or what's going on, but this time
can't help somebody who don't want to be helped.
Yep. I was just going to say that very same thing.
It looks like this could be
it.
This could be it.
Because she could be in jail. Yeah, because that's vehicular manslaughter. That's probably 10 to 15 years.
At least.
Yeah, I heard they have the 30-strike rule now in Florida.
So we may be saying goodbye to Sunny for a long time. Sad story there. So, but hopefully, no matter what, she'll get the help she needs. And even if she gets out when she's 60 or something like that, she'll be able to live a normal life. But
you would have think Shawn Michaels would have went over there and helped her find God.
Wow.
I heard he did, but that was before he changed his ways.
Hey now. Anyway, so those were the bummers after WrestleMania weekend. Unbelievable.
Do you have any good stories to talk about?
Do I have good stories? You know what? I want to have some fun with this one. Let's go to AEW land for a little bit, shall we?
AEW to him's always the good story.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, there were.
He's such an AEW mark.
All I'm going to say about it is this.
Dude, admit it. You're just an AEW mark.
Well, I do enjoy.
What are we going to hear about Jade Cargill today?
No, we're not talking about Jade Cargill. But I wanted to talk about FTR, who had a terrific match with the Young Bucks that everybody's going crazy about.
Of course they did. Of course they are.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't have to.
See?
Because everyone's going to go crazy about it.
Well, it was pretty good. Joe, did you see the FTR Bucks match?
There are a couple of spots for the Bucks in there.
I didn't. I don't know. I'd rather see the Briscoes myself, but.
Well, the FTR Briscoes match on the Ring of Honor Supercard was that one I didn't get to see yet. That one was pretty amazing too. Boy,
all
FTR.
These teams carrying FTR.
Wow. Do you really feel? I'm curious. Do you really feel that way?
No, I think they're good, but the hype about them, the Briscoes have been at that level for years. So is Pentagon and Phoenix. So is the Young Bucks. And I guess they're the good old flavor of the month, flavor of the year. They're very, very good. But let's see them do it for 10 or 15 years. Like they're being spoken about as if they're the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors. They're not. They're a very good tag team who someday could be in that greatest category, but they're nowhere near that.
Fish, what do you think about that?
I think he's absolutely right. I think they speak of him like they're already in that pantheon of greatness, and they're not there.
Did they really do anything in WWE?
Well, of course, when they were the Revival in NXT, they had that amazing feud with DIY. And then when they came up, they did win the titles, but then they kind of got buried because they weren't a Vince McMahon type tag team. They had the back shaving thing that they did in the locker room with the Usos, making fun of them and all that kind of stuff, and it just wasn't their style. But the one thing, but I will defend FTR quite a bit because
of course you will.
Well, I will because
you're an AEW, Mark.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just I think that they are so slick in what they do in the ring, and if you see that match, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they just do so many. They remind me a lot of like an Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard type team or a Midnight Express. That they are really slick with the little stuff that they do and the little touches that they have when they do their matches. That I get a kick out of it because I like seeing those smart strategic things you can stick in a match that just make you go, oh wow, I never thought of that.
See, at their hype, I was more into watching Pentagon and Phoenix feuding against Santana and Ortiz in Impact, and I've not gotten the opportunity to see Santana and Ortiz in AEW. Whose fault is that? Why are they not allowing them to break out the way FTR was given the freedom? And that's the key. If you get the freedom to do what you can do best, obviously you're going to shine. Are they very good? Absolutely. But there's so many other teams that are fantastic. So, I put them on a level with beneath. To me, they're the second tier, of the Young Bucks and Pentagon and Phoenix and that crew. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. I think they're up there, but that's just me.
Again, of course you do.
I've liked FTR. I've liked those guys since they were in NXT. This isn't just an AEW thing for me. I mean, I thought that when they were wrestling Gargano and Ciampa, that those matches were absolutely incredible. I have been a fan of theirs since then, and I really enjoy FTR. I really do. I think they're the way that they plan their matches out is pretty fantastic. So, just putting it out there.
Yeah, they're not even as good as the Motor City Machine Guns were.
Ooh. Okay. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one, Joe, but all right. Everybody's got their opinions.
Different styles, too. I like a little bit more of that fast-paced tag team stuff. Tully and Arn were great in 1992.
Well, if you see the match with the Bucks, I think you'll enjoy the match because it was pretty. That one was a pretty fast-paced match.
Was it spotty for the Bucks? Because all the Bucks matches are spotty. That's my issue with the Bucks.
And they don't sell very much.
At a couple of points, yeah, but honestly, like the first 10 minutes was pretty sensational. And it was not a spot fest at the beginning of that match. So yeah, go watch it, and next week maybe we can talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I will put that on my bucket list for the week.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was worth 15 minutes or so. So got it. I like I said, I really enjoyed
if
that.
I had to sit through some of those crappy WrestleMania matches, I can sit through that.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you that
the truth.
That match was better than just about anything on WrestleMania. It really was. Honest to God, guys. I know you're
again. Of course, it was.
Well, it was.
Okay.
Watch the match, and when you come back next week, you tell me.
Okay.
All right.
And to be honest, when it comes to pure wrestling, the AEW matches are more fun to watch than the WWE because everything's stifled in that TV time and it's run that way. It's like what I feel about Impact Wrestling. They have some of the best super indie guys that if I booked on a show like I did when we booked Pentagon and Phoenix, it was more special than when they wrestled on Impact. And even with the turnout, it was better than at Impact because those guys are conformed into a 6-minute television segment where it's like this, and this, and the match is over. While on the indies, that's why Brian Cage can make tons of money, yet he's still trying to wrestle every weekend because he wants to have fun because he loves wrestling.
Hey, Joey, I hate to cut you off, but we're heading out here. We will be back for the second half hour of the Mark Hoke Show. Stick around. We'll be
Time flying.
Yeah. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDON, the talk of Las Vegas.
Now, let's return to the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
I am not a total mark for AEW. I enjoy the wrestling.
You believe what you want to believe.
And he's a fan. He's not a mark.
Yeah. Can a mark be a mark? Without it being, I don't know, just not good.
You could be.
I could be, I guess. Whatever. We'll change the name, and then I'll go by my middle name. Giuseppe. No, it's not my middle name, and I'm not telling you. Andrew Fisher.
It's similar to the WWE apologists. There's a lot of the fans that, AEW or WWE can do no wrong, AEW can do no right. And the good part about it is for 20, 30 years, there wasn't that discussion anymore because there was only the one game in town, and many people felt because there was no other game in town that WWE suffered drastically, which they did. And they still do it.
But the sad part is WWE hasn't upped its game with the challenge of AEW, and it's partly because they don't see it as a challenge because they're putting on two different products. WWE and WCW were very similar. AEW is different than WWE, and AEW is about the wrestling, while WWE is about the entertainment.
I don't know.
Well, WWE is about making money, and they make their money without even having to run a house show and put people in stands because all the deals they got between Peacock and Saudi Arabia, that they could just run Saudi Arabia and air their shows on Peacock, and they never have to worry about doing an outside show again.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the ratings are. I mean, as long as they're solid, they're all right. But it's interesting that you said what you just said there about comparison with WCW and so on. I don't know if when I look at AEW, they remind me more of the NWA, the old NWA, not the current one, obviously, because WCW was a little more entertainment-y too. I mean, they did some pretty dumb stuff on that.
That's what I
show.
just said. WCW was like the WWE,
okay, I'm sorry,
whereas AEW is different, and that's why I said WCW and WWE were very comparable. So that's why that fight was I don't know if fair fight is the right term, but they were on the same level. Yeah. AEW and WWE are on totally different levels because they want to be on different levels. AEW is more about the wrestling, which as a wrestling fan you enjoy more than the entertainment aspect, which is what the WWE is about, as Joe said, which is making money.
Well, and
to me, AEW is basically ROH on steroids. If Sinclair, who has, maybe not Tony Khan money or his daddy Khan money, but they had tons of money that they never really invested. They have all these television stations. Ring of Honor could have been what AEW is, and there would have been no Tony Khan.
Yep, they had the chance and they passed.
Yeah,
which was
just look smart. At the first thing that they funded all in, and that was their downfall. Hey, yeah, we'll do this for you, Cody and Bucks, and then where that got them.
Yep, whoopsie. But but it's interesting you bring up because I was going to kind of lead into that with something that happened on Rampage on Friday night on AEW. Wheeler Yuta, who was kind of a mid-card kind of dude floating around. Well, now all of a sudden he has earned his way into the Blackpool Combat Club with Danielson and Moxley. And the match that Yuta just had with Moxley on Friday night, I didn't think that Yuta was capable of doing the psychology type things that he did in the ring. Got busted open and just showed a ton of emotion during that match. And Moxley was working him stiff. I mean, it was a pretty hard hitting match. But with AEW, they seem to really have the ring psychology part of it down. Some of their wrestlers, obviously, a little green, some shaky moments at times. It's gotten better, obviously, from the start. But the one thing that they seem to do really well is draw you in emotionally in a match.
Well, that's
more than anybody I've ever seen.
Well, that's what I was talking about. That's the wrestling part of it that WWE doesn't seem interested in.
And what I can't understand is why. And we were talking about Charlotte and Rousey last week at WrestleMania, and the thing that pulled that match from being to being pretty solid was those two actually threw a lot of emotion in the match. And it just seems like, and I can't understand why WWE doesn't incorporate that more.
Because they don't need to.
Right, yeah, they don't need to.
But what would happen if they did?
But they don't care.
If they did. They do, by mistake. We see it, and it's like, oh, wow, see? And it's like, if it does happen, it was a fluke. It happens just because it happens. Sometimes you have really good people in there, and they have pride in themselves, and they go out there and they do what they can to try to steal the show. You know, that was the moniker back in the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart feud and things like that, where each guy wanted to one-up the other. While WWE focuses on, talk about guys that are green. You're going to say Madcap Moss ain't green? That guy's been doing it for a long time. He's still green. Happy Corbin can't even bump right. If you look at it that way.
It's why going into WrestleMania, people are looking forward to seeing the Edge AJ Styles match, because that was going to be a match that could have had that ring psychology, because those are two wrestlers that people know are going to do exactly what needs to be done to try to steal the show.
And those are two guys that there's no repercussions if they do what they want.
Yeah, it just stuns me how WWE has become so cookie cutter, and they don't realize if they would pull that element in, that people would be going crazy.
People don't realize it, but 30 years ago, when Rey Mysterio became a star, he was the only one allowed to go on the top rope and do a bunch of different stuff. Then, when Ray kind of got banged up and disappeared, they let Matt Sydal, Evan Bourne, be that guy. And guess what? Evan Bourne became a huge star because he was doing all the cool stuff that they let him do. There's a lot of guys who can do that, but they're grounded and they're basically told not to do it.
Good point. Yeah, I don't know. WWE is a very strange land sometimes.
It's because WWE, as Joe said, they don't need to, because they're going to draw them. They're going to get the money regardless of what they do. So why they don't have to put in the extra effort? AEW has to put in that extra effort because it wants to keep their fan base, and because they do a great job with it. So they're going to do that just to keep what they have.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, as many egos as WCW had back in the day with guys like Nash and all them up top, Eric Bischoff brought in the Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis, and they would open the show with maybe the best match of the night and got them noticed in a different way because of the wrestling. And then they would do the horribly gimmicked, main event where there was 30 guys interfering and there was dusty finishes all over the place. But they understood that they needed to do something different if they were going to compete, because at that point they wanted to compete. But nobody knew who Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero and Psychosis and Malenko and all those cruiserweights and Hoovy and Mysterio. But those were the guys that were like, oh, man, did you see these guys? You didn't see them in WWE.
Yeah, and now this kind of leads into something that happened on SmackDown that I wanted to talk about, which was the debut of at least two members of Imperium. Gunther is now on the main roster. And when you saw past matches with Walter, those matches that he had with Dragunov, for example, brutal, powerful matches that everybody just was like, wow. You would see videos up of people like Shawn Michaels watching these matches and reacting to them because they were just that amazing. With the psychology and just how stiff they were working and what they were putting into it. And now Walter is now Gunther, and they had him drop about 40 pounds. And I didn't realize WWE had said, hey, we want you to lose some weight. And now he's still hitting hard, but he looks cookie cutter. You know, it's like there's a factory. There's a factory mold.
WWE style.
Yeah, there's a factory mold to, okay, we want everybody to look this way. We want everybody to wrestle this way. And, you know, it to me, it hurts the product, but obviously they're making money. So, you know, to like Fish, to your point, you know, do you stray from that little formula? Or
No,
because
all Vince McMahon cares about is making money. And because that's all he cares about, he's going to do whatever it is that keeps making him money. And doing what he's doing is what's making him money. As soon as it starts losing him money or not making as much as he thinks it should be making him, it will change. But that's the only way to affect change in the WWE is to have it come from the bottom line.
And that's when they had to change when WCW overtook them.
Right. That's when the Attitude Era came in because all of a sudden what they were doing wasn't working. Duke the Dumpster Drozy, nobody cared about.
You know, look at every woman now in WWE there. Everybody's hairstyle is different. Everybody's gear is a different color. Like everybody, it's literally like watching American Idol. Like every individual is still part of the company, but everybody is their own entity, individual entities that they mix together into that. And you know, nobody's kind of the same anymore. They try to make sure they differentiate. You know, God forbid somebody had the same first name.
Yeah, you know, and that's done for marketing purposes, merchandising, things like that. You know, trying to find stuff that's going to stick and styles that are going to. Which
is again the way that Vince makes his money.
Yeah, I mean,
right, but you know, AEW can have Matt Jackson and Matt Hardy. People know they're different, but they can do that. Well, you know, it's kind of like when, you know, Shane Helms had to change his name because, you know, his name was Shane. He had to be Gregory or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there's a Shane McMahon. Like anybody's going to confuse those two guys.
Yeah, and it's funny when you see Imperium. Well, you know, we had 3 people get stuck into the name randomizer for WWE. Obviously, Walter had already been turned into Gunther, but Marcel Barthel from Imperium is now Ludwig Kaiser, and Raquel Gonzalez, who was wrestling on NXT,
is now Raquel Rodriguez.
Former champion is now Raquel Rodriguez,
and that one makes like, no sense at all.
And I just don't understand when you see that kind of stuff. What's the point to me? Because if you're building them on NXT, wouldn't you want to just carry that name that you've built up and bring it into the main roster instead of saying, "Oh, guess what? You're now Wally Rick Tucker."
Well, yes and no, because it happened. I actually, in my mind, I was like, Raquel Rodriguez. Wasn't that Raquel Gonzalez? So I had to actually look it up to make sure that I was correct. So therefore, now all of a sudden I'm looking at things that are WWE on the internet as well. Which
maybe it's Ricardo Rodriguez's sister.
Yeah, maybe
he'll come out now as with Alberto Del Rio. Sorry,
but I just don't see the purpose.
I completely agree with you. What was the purpose of making Pete Dunne Butch?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what, though. A while back, if you remember, everybody who would come in would have a different name. They would be over as indie guys. You know, Bryan Danielson had to become Daniel Bryan. And the only person, once AJ Styles, who they probably never expected to get over as much as he did, came out as AJ Styles, the crowd went crazy. And then you saw for a few years Samoa Joe, and everybody got to keep their name. You know, Keith Lee and Cross were probably the last 2 that were able to keep their name. Obviously, they changed Killer to Carrion. But after that, it was almost like back to the nobody gets to keep their indie name, and we're going to change it, because that was when Triple H was bringing in Adam Cole and Bobby Fish, and everybody got to keep their Ring of Honor names. Now, if you look, Sefa Fatu becomes Solo Sikoa. Pete Dunne was always Pete Dunne, but now he moved to the main roster. We're going to call him Butch. And now now they're back to where nobody's using the gimmick name that they came up with. It's now the gimmick name that WWE owns.
And Braun Breaker is another example of that as well.
Yeah, and I to a point I understand that when someone comes into the spear of WWE that you
give them a WWE
give a
name.
WWE name for trademarking purposes.
Right, but when they're in WWE already under that name, why change their
change
name?
it?
That I agree. And this is not what we're talking about, but I just brought up Braun Breaker. It was very interesting to me that they had him lose on Saturday, Stand and Deliver, then have him win the title on Monday Night Raw, which made no sense.
I know. Welcome to WWE booking. Also on SmackDown, by the way, Lacey Evans is back.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Are you guys excited about Lacey Evans coming back?
I was shocked that she came back before. I don't know where Asuka is, and Bayley is the other one. But, I think Lacey Evans looks in better shape now than I'd seen her at any other point.
Does she have an impact?
It depends on if they let her. I think she absolutely can. I think she can be a dominant force in the women's wrestling.
But who is she going to be ahead of? Charlotte Flair, Rousey, Bianca Belair.
And of course, she already kind of did a Charlotte thing badly.
Yeah,
it's
Rhea Ripley. You got Sasha Banks, and again, look at the matches. There might be 12 matches, 13 matches. 6 or 7 on each show every week, Raw and SmackDown. And out of those 14 matches, probably 3 or 4 are women's matches. So you're talking 8 or 10 people. So how can 16 of them have an impact when only 10 get to be on?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, of course, she dropped the Southern Belle gimmick. And
now she's telling her life story.
Yeah, she's telling her life story, and it looks like she's kind of going military. She was a U.S. Marine. But
the way they presented it is like out of nowhere, the whole, she's come out of nowhere, risen from the ashes to be who she is now.
Yeah, it was interesting. I guess you're trying to repackage and forget about what she did.
It's hard when you got 75 people and only 32 spots. So,
well, we'll see where it ends up. But
I mean,
I always liked Lacey. I mean, I think she needed to refine a few things in the ring, but overall, I thought she was a great character.
And we can't have the show if you're talking about repackaging and not bring up Ezekiel, which is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, we can get to Raw.
Is it?
Ooh, it's
okay,
curveballed you there.
And Elias came out. The beard, all this stuff. At least they made him look like, okay, it could be. Why couldn't it be his brother? I see TV shows where it's like, oh, this is ridiculous. The guy looks exactly the same. We haven't seen the guy in a year. He looks totally different. And other than what I don't get is if they're trying to move forward with this Ezekiel gimmick, why do they goof and joke about Elias? So if that's where you're going, shouldn't you try to sell it at least?
And that was my point, is that it was with the Miz that he did it, right? And the Miz said, I know you don't say that.
It was Kevin Owens.
It was Kevin Owens. He goes,
Kevin
I
Owens.
know who you are. You're Elias. If you're trying to sell him as Ezekiel, then sell him as Ezekiel. Don't come in and have Kevin Owens say, no, you're Elias.
I am so.
What was better than the twin Hebners? Ever as a referee? Never.
I was just thinking about that the other day. That did make me think about that. To be honest with you,
would it be that one day Elias walks in right next to his brother?
That would be hilarious.
Well, you could do. I mean, and you could do it.
Twins. That's what they need to do. I'm telling you, I'm going to have to do it.
You find someone that looks close to him, and a little makeup and a wig and a beard, and somebody's walking with Elias, and that Walker is Ezekiel. Yeah, by the way, we're on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM. 7:20 a.m. I'm Mark Hoke, along with Andrew Fain, and on the phone Joe DeFalco.
But I just want to know what the through line is, what the storyline they're trying to provide with Ezekiel is, because his entrance meant nothing.
There's no storyline.
But usually
you just heard the storyline. That's it.
But usually,
this is going to get. That this is going to be either a bomb, or it's going to be a bomb that's going to be so bad that you will want to see what happens next.
Yeah, but Matt,
I don't see a high side.
Needs a feud after Happy Corbin. Here we go.
Really? They're on different shows, though. Who can we put with Ezekiel? Because the whole thing with Kevin Owens is bad. Can't do Cody. Who would be fun? Not Veer Mahan. He's too new in the.
That was another one. I was like, because now that, by the way, that's the other match. It's Veer Mahan versus Rey Mysterio on Monday night.
Maybe that's
Who's that?
Veer Mahan and Rey Mysterio Monday night.
one of the longest awaited debuts of all time. Good Lord, that took forever.
Wow, so Rey Mysterio's got a job out to the new guy, huh?
Yeah,
Yep.
but Veer Mahan lasted longer than Emelina.
Veer Mahan and Emelina have been the two longest push debuts ever. I swear to God, I'd go on Twitter and every day I'd see Veer Mahan's coming. I'm like,
Wasn't he already here?
I thought he was here. And, yeah, whatever. I did want to talk real quick about Cody Rhodes coming out too, and
The handshake with Seth Rollins, it seemed awfully strange.
well, more the promo talking about Dusty Rhodes. And we had talked about the direction they're gonna take Cody.
It seems like they're going to take it the direction you were suggesting.
Well,
They set it up to be that way anyway, that it could go down that road.
it could go down that road where where my suggestion was you have a
McMahon
feud
versus
between
Rhodes.
the McMahons and the Rhodes family, to prevent, because they secretly hated Dusty for everything he did to him, blah blah blah, and you stop Cody from winning the championship, and now the first thing comes out. The picture of his dad holding up the title when he was in a match in '77.
And I don't think it was acting. I think Cody was choked up to almost tears.
Oh, he did. He broke down a few times during that. So I think he's really sincere about this, and I'll be interested to see where that goes. But I think that you use Cody to draw upon the history of wrestling and the history of Dusty Rhodes, and that those tentacles are everywhere. And I think it's a good move.
I do too. I still don't understand the handshake between him and Seth Rollins, though.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, wasn't Seth really kind of a babyface before the whole Cody Rhodes and the WrestleMania I Want a Match gimmick? Didn't they kind of turn him with Owens to where, that's why I thought it was weird, because now they both got presented as heels, yet they were just babyfaces and they didn't do anything to become heels.
Rollins kind of ended up in a tweener spot there.
Yeah, and he's never gone he hasn't gone back to full-fledged heel nor full-fledged face. He's just been kind of crazy with that maniacal laugh and the crazy outfits that he wears.
Which I'm good with that. If he wants to be a Danhausen and just kind of hang around.
As long as he's got the maniacal laugh, he doesn't need to be a heel or a face.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, he is still one of the best wrestlers on the roster.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And the loss to Cody, I think, at WrestleMania, it's going to be interesting to see where Seth Rollins goes from here too. But we'll find out.
Why there was a either or match. Nothing was lost on it. Cody Rhodes had to win. Seth Rollins gets plugged in wherever he is. But again, you used to talk back in the day. You look now, there's so many guys. You talk about, wow, who can beat a Roman Reigns? Well, Drew McIntyre could. Seth Rollins could. If pushed right, Kevin Owens could. I see all those guys as better. Randy Orton, that's a guy, if he came after Roman Reigns, why wouldn't the fans would buy into it immediately?
Right,
Cody Rhodes to me would be like the 8th or 9th choice.
Yeah, I mean,
that high.
Can you believe Shinsuke could beat Roman Reigns?
No, not the way he's been presented.
No, 7 years ago.
Absolutely, and they've ruined Shinsuke, and that's beside the point. But you're right, and that's why I didn't know why they brought him out on SmackDown.
But I'll throw another name out: Braun Breaker.
I don't think he's
not right
nowhere
now,
near ready.
I agree, but that hasn't stopped them before.
He's going to have to drop that NXT title that he just regained, like I said, for no reason after he lost it, after he didn't gain it on Saturday, which made no sense why he lost it.
Right, like why? I don't care how it is. Nobody's looking back into the exact reasoning why he lost. All anybody knows is Dolph Ziggler beat him, and then he beats Dolph Ziggler. It's like, again, Dolph Ziggler has not been presented in the brightest lights over the last 10 years.
Ugh. He's like a rat.
But he's been a hell of a worker.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's done everything they've asked him to do, and
so was Brad Armstrong.
Yeah,
but Dolph Ziggler can talk.
He gets that paycheck. He says, "How high would you like me to jump, Mr. McMahon? Thank you very much, and I'll be rich."
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Consequences, as long as I'm rich. All right, boys.
Thank you, Daffy.
We got to wrap this up. What a great 2 hours that was. That was fun.
Was that 2 hours? It only felt like one.
We got another bonus hour, Joe. Stick around.
I was going to say, might as well stay on. Who cares about the other guy? They have lower ratings than us anyway.
I know that. because we're awesome.
Everybody has lower ratings
Hey,
than us.
thank you, everybody, for listening. We certainly do appreciate it. Joe, Fish, another great job. Always fun working with you.
Yeah, I want to see a 24-hour extravaganza one weekend.
That
We
would
can
be
do it.
amazing. So, once again, follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show. Fish is the Fish 1969, Joe at FSW Vegas. Facebook, The Mark Hoke Show. MarkHokeShow.com. MarkHokeShow.podbean.com. I see people are downloading all our old shows. We appreciate it. Check them all out. And, of course, on your favorite podcast outlets.
So is that Fish's
Las Vegas.
birth year,
Have a
69? Is that why he
terrific
uses
rest of your
69?
weekend, and we'll see you soon.